Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video, and this week we got an awesome card, man. We got Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan in the main event. We got a main card that I think could rival and even is better than some pay-per-view main cards that we've had this year. So, really excited to break this fight card down. And just before we get started, I want to apologize for the late drop for this video. I've been traveling this week and just got the time to come in and kind of bust this whole video out. So this is when I was able to find the time, unfortunately. Next week I'll try to come up with the video a lot earlier. And this is another good reason to be on Patreon. I mean, I have given predictions for this fight card almost a week ago on Patreon, and my full card predictions have been on Patreon for a while now as well. So if you were on Patreon, you were able to see all my predictions a lot earlier for this fight card, or several fights at least. But going to give you guys every single prediction I have for this fight card and try to give you guys good information once again. You've been killing it, man. November, we had our best month of the entire year. We made over 15 units in November, and we're going to be looking to do that again this month and end the year with a bang, and, definitely end the year hopefully with quite a bit of units profit. Right now we're profitable. We're doing decent on the year, maybe not quite as where I wanted to be, but we're still doing pretty well, and we still got a month to go to bridge that gap and make even more money. So definitely this card in particular, I think there's some spots where the lines are way off. I don't really understand how they could have certain fighters as such big favorites. So definitely think that this could potentially be a gold mine in terms of betting for this card too. So if you want to go to patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru, support the channel, make yourself some money, then I definitely think right now is one of the best times to do it. Go over there, check it out, get access to all my predictions for other promotions, breakdowns, bets, and you definitely won't regret it. So patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru, but let's try to get to 100 likes on this video. Let's try to get some comments on this video. I'd really appreciate it. Been predicting a really high percentage recently, so hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. But let's get in this first fight of the night right here with Veronica Hardy, Veronica Macedo. She's taking on Jamey-Lyn Horth. And interesting fight right here. I mean, Veronica Hardy, she kind of re-announced herself and reinvented herself in a way where she came back, different name. Now she has a renewed vigor a little bit, and went in there with Juliana Miller, the girl that did most recently win the Ultimate Fighter for females, and she was able to beat her pretty easily. She dominated her over 3 rounds and showed that she still has a little bit of life. She's not an old fighter. She took time off. She came back. She's skilled. And if she can string some wins together, maybe she could be in a position where people thought she would have been when she started her UFC career really, really young. And Jamey-Lyn Horth, she is someone that came to the UFC a little bit older, so she has to get going now, but she definitely looked good in her debut. She went in there, she fought up a weight class against Haley Cowan, who I think is physically one of the stronger and more athletic girls at 135 in the UFC, and Horth did well. She was able to hold her own and get the win via decision in that fight. Now she's dropping down to 125, where I think she's going to be significantly bigger than Macedo, who has fought at 115 before, and she obviously is going to have a 3-inch advantage in the height and the reach. So Horth, I think she's going to look a lot bigger than Macedo when they're both out there. But skill-wise, Macedo is fast. She's skilled. I mean, she has good jiu-jitsu. On the feet, she kind of likes to move around, pull fighters into her blitzes, and then use her kicks on the outside. And she has good speed, but I don't feel like she does the best against a pressure fighter with good length and distance control and a gas tank. I mean, in her last fight, she fought Juliana Miller, who has bad footwork, bad striking defense, and it was a good matchup. I mean, Macedo was able to move around her and kind of pick Miller apart from distance. With Horth, she's a lot more polished. She switches stances. She does a good job of utilizing the jab, and I feel like Horth is going to be a lot harder to just pick off on the outside. I think she's going to be coming forward, getting in Macedo's face, and using her long boxing style to get the better of Hardy. And I think Horth actually has good kicks herself as well. And in terms of strength, I think she's going to have a big advantage there, Jamey-Lyn Horth. I feel like she could have a clinch advantage. I think she can push the pace and boss the fight and get Macedo tired. Horth needs to be careful early, I think, of the submission threat of Hardy. I keep saying Macedo, my bad, but yeah, Veronica Hardy. But outside of that, I think Horth has the edge everywhere. I mean, I think on the feet, Horth will prove to be the better striker. I think Horth is stronger, better in the clinch, the better wrestler. I think she has the better cardio. She's going to be the bigger fighter in there. And Horth has done really well at working away into fights, getting late finishes. So I'm going to say she goes out there and gets a third round submission victory with the rear naked choke against Veronica Hardy here. So for the first fight of the night, my prediction is going to be Jamey-Lyn Horth via third round submission. And moving on to the second fight here, we got Wellington Turman. He's going to be taking on Gooden, and it's a fun class of styles. It should be an action fight. Gooden, he hasn't done well in the UFC, but he's been a fighter that has taken on anyone at any time, anywhere, and almost all his fights have been short notice. This fight, I do believe he's had at least a short training camp to get ready, so hopefully he shows up a little bit more on point. For Wellington Turman, he's had more success in the UFC than Gooden, but he's been a middling fighter overall in the company. He has kind of been up and down, and he's lost 2 fights in a row. So this fight is probably win or get cut for both competitors here. And as far as how these two match up, with Wellington Turman, I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. Gooden, pure striker pretty much. Turman, he has a black belt. He will look to wrestle. Gooden, more of a sprawl and brawler. He holds his hands low, stands very heavy on his lead leg so he can dig underhooks, keep it standing. Decent jab and left hook, and Gooden's overhand right is powerful, but he tends to slow down. He'll get wild and just wing punches, be very slow, and I think of a lot of that can be contributed to the short notice. So maybe in this fight he'll have a better gas tank, but when Gooden wins, it's usually via knockout. And he's a hittable fighter himself, and while he has a solid chin, he's super tough. He has accumulated a lot of damage at this point in his career. He also doesn't check leg kicks, so I think that Gooden is a little bit of damaged goods. But for Wellington Turman, his chin is questionable, so that gives Gooden an opportunity to get it done with the knockout. Wellington Turman is improving his striking, though, and you can clearly see shades of Alex Pereira entering his game. I mean, he's standing more bladed and upright. He's lighter on his feet. He's less stiff. He's improved his kicking game. He has okay leg kicks, front kicks to the body. I think his low kicks could come in handy here in this fight. And you also look to land that same left hook that Pereira throws as he enters range. His right cross, his right overhand are improving. And Turman has great cardio. In exchanges, he's willing to get in there and get ugly, which can be good, can be bad. But with his cardio, he can kind of wear guys out if they can't knock him out. And I think in this fight, Turman is the better overall striker. It's just he has to avoid getting clipped. And he has alright wrestling. He has an okay double leg, Turman. He'll try to take fighters down against the cage in the clinch, and good standing back takes, decent on top. But he has lost position. I wouldn't say he's necessarily an elite grappler. He can dog it out and make it a grind fest, and more active, dangerous in the clinch if that becomes the battle, in my opinion. His last fight with Randy Brown was competitive, and Randy Brown is pretty close to the rankings, so I think this is a step down, even though it's a dangerous matchup. Turman should be confident, and I think Turman should get the win here. The chin is a worry, but I feel like with his composure, his improving vision, and seeing shots, not just being as reckless, Turman will take shots better, and I think Turman has great cardio, so unless he gets put to sleep early, Turman, I think, can compete, do well, and even get the finish or the better of the striking. And also, he has in his back pocket the ability to get it to the ground or in the clinch and grind out Gooden in that manner. And he even showed off his back in his fight with Meisha Cirkunov that he can hit submissions from the full guard. So I think Turman is a little bit better everywhere. He has the better cardio, and I anticipate Turman is going to win a decision here. So for me, the prediction is going to be Wellington Turman via decision. And up next, we got Rodolfo Bellato. He's taking on Ihor Potieiria. Kind of a low-level fight here that I don't have too much interest in with Bellato. He is a guy that is decently solid, I feel like. He has potential, athletic. He uses his striking to back guys up. He could take fighters down against the cage. Good doubles. And he has decent striking. Like, his striking isn't terrible, but I think he's lacking a little bit on the feet. His chin is not necessarily the best. I feel like this is a striking fight. It's kind of 50-50 because Potieiria, I think, is a little bit underrated in the stand-up. He's lengthy. Both these guys have the same reach, so Potieiria is not going to have that advantage, but he's going to have a 3-inch reach in the legs, and he does throw a lot of kicks. He'll stay mobile, try to kind of pull guys into shots, throw combinations, explode in, but very offensive-minded, not too defensive-minded. He definitely can get clipped, can get hit, and his wrestling and grappling is improving, but I think that Bellato has the edge there, and that's where he's going to find success. I also think he could find success if the fight goes late, having the better cardio. He's won 5 rounds. He has shown really good cardio, and Potieiria is kind of the opposite. But Potieiria, he has a good chin, and he's a guy that's dangerous. So as long as this fight's on the feet, he's going to have a chance to get the win. But I just think Bellato, more well-rounded, better everywhere, and probably going to be able to get Potieiria tired using his kind of push against the cage, clinch, look for takedowns game plan. And I think he could either finish him on the ground or win via decision. So give me Rodolfo Bellato in that one, and I'll say he ends up winning via second or third round submission or KO TKO with ground and pound. And this next fight, we got a really good matchup. We got Steve Garcia taking on Melquizael Costa. And with Melky Costa, he's a guy that I bet on in his last fight in the UFC and went in there and just absolutely dominated. Austin Lingo looked really good. That was after a loss in his UFC debut up at 155 pounds to Thiago Moises. So dropping down to featherweight, it looks like Costa is going to be a problem in the division, especially if you can't take him to the ground. And Steve Garcia, he has been a really fun addition to the UFC since he's joined. He kind of didn't have a lot of fights for a while. He came in, he fought Luis Pena, kind of got nullified in that one, and then had a long layoff. But he's come back on these quick knockouts, gotten back-to-back wins via first-round finish, and he comes in there, he makes fights wild, and he has power. So when he shows up in the cage, it's usually a kill-or-be-killed contest, and it's always usually fun to watch. So definitely going to be tuning in and have my eyes peeled on this fight. But I feel like Steve Garcia is a perfect matchup for Melky Costa. He's, in my opinion, he has the better wrestling, maybe Steve Garcia, but if he does go the wrestling route, I don't think he's going to be able to hold Costa down. I think Costa is too slick of grappling, and I think he could, I don't necessarily think he could catch Steve Garcia in a submission, but I think he could use his submission game, use his grappling to get back up to his feet and make it the fight that he wants. And I think Garcia will eventually kind of acquiesce and make it into a striking fight. And I think Steve Garcia ultimately, his best chance to win is what he's been doing recently, which is try to go out there, try to make it wild early and catch Costa and knock him out. Because Costa can get hit a little bit, but Steve Garcia technically isn't on Costa's level. Costa's the way slicker counter striker. That's a difficult style for Garcia to deal with because Garcia, he's wild. He leaves a lot of openings. He's dangerous and powerful, but he's throwing a lot of looping shots, and he's right there for Costa to catch and snipe as he comes in. We already seen him get dropped a couple times by Charlie Oliveras, get knocked out in his fight against the, who's that? I can't remember, the Asian fighter, knocked him out with one punch coming in. So obviously, I feel like Costa, his kicks are nasty. I think he has really good counter-punching ability. His power is a little overrated, I feel like. I mean, if you look at his career, he doesn't have a lot of finishes with strikes. And even in his last fight, he beat up Austin Lingo really bad, but couldn't end up finding that shot to get him out of there. But this fight, I do think he has the matchup where he can just find the highlight reel knockout via timing or hurt Steve Garcia and submit him. So I feel like Costa is going to get this job done inside the distance, get the victory, and give me Melky Costa. I'll say he wins via first-round knockout, actually. And up next, we got a really kind of difficult fight to call here with Drakkar Klose taking on Joe Solecki. I think if this was Drakkar Klose of a few years ago, it would be Drakkar Klose all day, but now I'm leaning more towards Joe Solecki personally, because you look at Drakkar Klose, came back, he had that long layoff with the knee injuries, he had the torn ACL, and looked good. I mean, he came back, and it wasn't like, I don't think he was looking at like the old Drakkar Klose, to be honest. I mean, I feel like he took a step down in competition, and, you know, he fought Brandon Jenkins, knocked him out, then fought Rafa Garcia and got the win, but I don't know if necessarily he was at that same level when he was beating like Jacasey, Bobby Green, Lando, but he is coming off 2 wins in a row. But the thing about it is he was getting ready for another fight last year in November and tore his ACL again, man. I mean, that's like 3 ACL tears for Drakkar Klose. I mean, that's a lot of damage. He's getting up there in age. He's 35 years old now. I mean, the guy isn't a young guy anymore. I feel like he hasn't had a ton of fights in the UFC, so people haven't really kind of caught on that he's aging. He's suffered a lot of injuries, and he just has not been the most active guy. He hasn't fought since July 30th of last year. And you look at Joe Solecki, and Solecki, he also had, I believe, a bit of a layoff, right? Like where he fought in October of 2021 and then came back like 10 months later. But he fought in February, he submitted Carl Deaton, and he's also coming off 2 wins in a row. But I feel like stylistically, if this fight stays standing, Klose should have the edge with this pressure, and just he's the more composed guy on the feet. He's more comfortable standing. He's willing to get in your face, take one and give one, and make it really wild. He has nice leg kicks. But I feel like Klose is very hittable. I mean, the guy has terrible defense. That left hook from Solecki that Solecki likes to throw is going to be there for him to connect on all night. And Solecki just needs to kind of compose himself, not let Drakkar Klose kind of punk him out with the pressure. And if he does that, I mean, it's not like Drakkar Klose is a crazy knockout artist. He's not going to find, you know, these off angles and catch Solecki with a slick knockout shot. Like, it's going to be brute force KO. So Solecki, you know, if he just has composure, you know, sees these shots coming and works his counter game and takedown game, I think he could do just well. And Drakkar Klose has issues with guys taking him down, man, and he's not good off of his back. He is a former wrestler, but those knee injuries, just age, I think he's kind of lost a little bit of that. And with Solecki, man, if Solecki gets on top of this guy, he's not getting up. I guarantee you it. I mean, it'll be around for Solecki all day. So, personally, I got Solecki by decision. I just feel like he's going to grind this one out. I think that Klose is kind of getting at the end of his rope. So, going to go with Joe Solecki via decision in that one through kind of moving around, trying to use his composure on the feet. I do think Klose have moments where Solecki looks bad in the stand-up and looks overwhelmed, but I think ultimately Solecki's going to be able to get the couple takedowns he needs to get that top control time, hold Klose down for the entire round, and get the win that way. So I'm going with Joe Solecki to win this fight via decision. And up next here we got Cody Brundage versus Zachary Reese. I mean, don't really have a lot to say about this fight. Cody Brundage, kind of a flake. I mean, we all saw his last fight where he got the win in the UFC. It was kind of a weaselly win where got hit in the back of the head a couple times in a fight. He was getting dominated and just quit, let Jacob, got the win via DQ. Jacob Malkoun took the loss. But Brundage, you know, he's one of these guys where the UFC just puts him in here on short notice against fighters they want to try to hype up. And I think Zachary Reese is another one of these guys. I mean, 6'4", 77-inch reach, and just has dominated everyone he's fought, went on the Contender Series, got a really quick finish. But with Zachary Reese, I mean, we've seen basically nothing from the guy. The guys went out there, showed, you know, he's dangerous early, he has good submission game, but we haven't seen him against a wrestler, put him on his back that has good submission defense, how he'll look. We haven't seen him face a guy that can outstrike him. We haven't even really seen him go long or have to face much adversity. So it's like, are you going to go with the guy that you know is a front runner when he sees one sense of it going the other way? He's usually going to look for the door, or are you going to go with the guy that really hasn't proven anything but has shown a really, really good danger factor and has ran through almost everyone he's fought? I mean, I'm going to go with the guy that's undefeated, that has ran through everyone, because I just feel like if they have to make it a dogfight, I think Reese will be able to dig deep. I don't think Brundage's experience is going to give him any advantage there, just because we know what his experience is. If this fight goes deep, if it gets hard, he's not going to be out there dogging it out. So I'm going to say Reese goes out there and gets another first round finish like he has been doing. But even if he doesn't, I still think he's going to have the goods to go out there and pull it out by decision. So Zachary Reese for me is going to be the pick, but it's just like, it's hard to be confident in a guy like Zachary Reese when you don't really know too much about how he's going to handle adversity or what he's going to be like fighting a higher level opponent. And up next here, we got another really, really weird fight. I mean, Meisha Tate taking on Julia Avila. I don't know how anyone can be confident in this fight. I see certain people putting money on, a lot of money on Avila, and I just don't get that, man. I don't understand that. I've seen like Betmma.tips, there's a lot of bets on Avila, and man, I mean, if you just go back, you look at the track record of fighters that come back for their first fight after pregnancy, they got to be like at a 10% win rate, man. It's like they lose every single time, damn near. It's crazy. It's like, I think Pena beat Nico, and maybe there's like a couple others, but I'm not saying they don't ever come back and get back into it in the UFC level, but a lot of them, they lose that first fight when they come back. And Julia Avila hasn't fought in a long time. Apparently, she went up to like 230 pounds. So, you know, like her whole training camp probably had to be just a fat camp, getting back in shape. And I just, it's hard for me to have any confidence how she's going to go out there and look, especially with the level of opposition that she's been in there with. And the one time she fought someone that's even kind of a mid-tier level fighter in Sijara Eubanks, kind of got dominated. I know she got that win over Pani Kianzad, which was a good win, but I don't know. I mean, that was a long time ago at this point. Avila's older too. I mean, even though Meisha Tate is up there, like 38 years old for Meisha, I think Avila is 35, 36 herself. So pregnancy, 36, having to lose 100 pounds. I don't know how you could have faith in going in there and betting on her. But Meisha Tate, I mean, she's not really doing much for anyone either. She's been looking dismal in her fights. Even though I guess you could argue that she's been fighting some higher level opponents like Lauren Murphy, Ketlin Vieira, does not look good at all. I mean, she's shown great cardio, great will to win. Obviously, everything that we've seen from Meisha throughout her whole career, where her last fight with Lauren Murphy, her face was destroyed, and she's just still coming forward trying to win and never got tired. But, you know, just not showing a lot of good things, you know. But it's just tough for me to make a prediction on this fight. I mean, Julia Avila, she's a girl that wants to go out there. She gets in your face. She throws wild and tries to knock you out early. I mean, we've seen her get a lot of quick finishes, and then we've seen her go out there and really try to take girls out right at the start and then get taken down and get tired, like in her fight with Eubanks, where they had that wild exchange in the beginning of almost every round. And if Meisha sits in front of her and gets in exchanges like that, Misha's not going to be able to handle that. I mean, the girl has terrible defense and just does not have the firepower to match Avila. She doesn't have the speed. But Avila isn't a very technical striker. I mean, everything is wild hooks, and, you know, on the inside she could be okay, fairly effective, but very hittable as she comes in, and just nothing really at distance for her in terms of striking. No real finesse in her striking. And Meisha Tate, for how bad her defense is, I think it's improved really absolutely none since she's made her comeback and for a long time through her career. But her offense has gotten a little bit better. I mean, she's been throwing a little bit crisper 1-2s and things like that. And I think if she could throw those, get Avila to think about the hands early, then level change, take her down, that could be a path to victory for Meisha Tate. I mean, we've seen Avila get dominated by Sijara Eubanks after she's taken down, held down, just didn't have much for the wrestling. And I don't think that Meisha Tate has that same horsepower in wrestling as Eubanks does. But if she can get her down and kind of get her a little bit tired, then she could get her down again and again and kind of win in that manner. And with Avila, I think she has to try to keep it standing, try to make Meisha pay for the takedowns or get on top of her when she does try to take you down and beat her up from the top position. If Avila can get on top, she's a beast and she's extremely strong for the weight. But, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, Meisha is coming back up to 35s. That is something that I'm personally taking into account because I feel like her dropping down to 125 was a mistake anyways. So I'm going to go with Meisha, but man, to me it's like pick your poison type of fight. I don't think you can be confident picking either girl. But I'm going to personally go with Meisha Tate via decision. And moving on now to the main card, we got Punahele Soriano taking on Dustin Stoltzfus to kick it off. And don't have too much to say about this fight. Kind of a difficult fight to predict in my opinion. I know these guys have trained together before. They've both been at Extreme Couture and, had some extensive training time at that gym. But Dustin Stoltzfus, he went back to Germany and he's been training there. And Puna is still over at Extreme. And, I feel like Stoltzfus, it's hard to gauge where he's at. I mean, the guy did beat Dwight Grant. He had a really good fight against GM3 before he let GM3 turn the tables on him and submit him. But his last fight with Abus, he got knocked out in 15 seconds. Then he's taking a long layoff. And Soriano, not really been the guy people thought when he joined the UFC, but he's gotten some highlight reel finishes, and he is what he is. He's a guy that goes out there, looks for that KO shot. He's a power puncher, and if he can knock you out, he's going to get the win. If he can't, he's probably going to lose the fight. So Dustin Stoltzfus, I think his game plan is going to be pretty obvious. He's going to try to stick on the outside, try to not let Soriano get in a rage, not let him back him up at all, and then time those takedowns, try to take Soriano down, get him tired. For Puna, it's going to be pressure, sprawl and brawl, try to touch the chin of Stoltzfus, who we've seen, just get knocked out really quickly in 15 seconds. So, Soriano has to be confident that if he could touch the chin, he could knock Stoltzfus out. And Stoltzfus, he doesn't have the greatest cardio. Soriano, to me, has bad cardio as well. So if this fight goes long, it could get really sloppy. I'm just going to go with Soriano, though, just because better track record in the UFC, better athlete, a little bit, in my opinion, tougher, more durable. And I like the fact that his coaches have seen Stoltzfus train quite a bit. They know his strengths, they know his weaknesses, and they can help Soriano with that too. So I'm going to go with Soriano, and I'll say he gets a knockout in the first or the second round in that fight. And up next, we got Clay Guida versus Joaquim Silva in a really, really close fight, in my opinion. I don't understand how the line is like Guida plus 250. To me, that's insane. I don't get it. Like Silva, I guess he's getting a lot of love from the odds makers because of his last fight with Tsarukyan, where he had some pretty good moments in that fight. But I just feel like this is a totally, not a different matchup necessarily, but just I think he's getting on a way too much love and way too much money line. Like, his money line is crazy where it's at right now just because of that fight. Because you look at his track record in the UFC, it's not like this guy's been a standout UFC fighter. And you see him go in there with older wrestlers and grapplers, and it's not like he's blowing him out of the water. Like, you remember his fight back in there with Reza Madadi. Reza lost a split decision. He was right in the fight. He was older. I think that was his last fight. I think he retired after the fight. So I just don't get the line. I mean, you look at Silva, the guy's extremely powerful. He has nice counter hooks, good timing on his overhands, on his uppercuts. And if he can connect clean on Clay with a big power shot, hey, he has that puncher's chance to hurt Clay, club and sub him. Guida's incredibly durable, hard guy to knock out. I mean, most of the time when you hurt Guida, you have to submit him to actually end up getting him out of there. But Silva, he has that crazy power. I feel like he's one of the more powerful guys that Guida's ever fought. He has the flying knees. So if Silva can land a crazy strike on Clay Guida, he could knock him out. But Guida, I think his striking is severely underrated these days. I feel like people are they don't give Clay Guida the respect he deserves, man. And that's why he's been able to stay in the UFC, and that's why he's been able to cash as an underdog quite a bit because the guy's boxing has improved significantly. His distance control has improved significantly. I mean, you go in there, you look at the way that he's throwing these combinations. He's throwing more combos with his hands. He's in and out. He's very, very hard to hit. He's evasive. And if you commit on him and you try to take him down or you try to throw heavy on him, he's going to just level change and try to take you down. He's never going to get tired. And he's a difficult guy to deal with. I mean, you even watch his fight with Rafa Garcia. That was a close fight. I mean, he had a lot of good moments on the feet. And you did see Clay kind of, when he started to eat that power, he became a little more defensive, which I didn't like to see. In this fight, he has to stay on the gas pedal for sure. And when he eats shots, he can't get kind of hesitant. But if he pressures Silva, he's throwing in his combinations, he's mixing in the takedowns, even if he's not getting them, I think he's going to be way more active than Joaquim Silva. And Silva, even though he's Neto BJJ, I think he's a black belt. He only has 3 submission wins. So I don't think Guida has a ton of danger being on top of Silva if he takes him down, especially if Silva's already a little bit tired. The only thing I think that he has to worry about is maybe the leg attacks, because we did see Silva hurt Jared Gordon and then end up knocking him out. He hurt him with the leg attack, then knocked him out. So Guida, he has to be a little bit weary of the leg attacks, but I think besides that, he can get on top and do work. And I feel like his cardio is going to be better, his output is going to be better, and if he doesn't get finished, he's going to get the win. He's very hard to knock out, and Silva's a guy that doesn't have a lot of submissions, so to me, plus 250, man, that's a lot of value on Clay Guida. So to me, I'm going to go with Clay Guida to get the job done via decision and hand Joaquim Silva another loss in the UFC. And we're moving on to this next fight. We got another really interesting fight with Sean Brady versus Kelvin Gastelum. Kind of a difficult fight to break down before we see the scales, because I think if we see Kelvin Gastelum hit that mark at 170 and he looks trim, he looks good, I think he's going to win this fight, because Sean Brady, I feel like I don't know where he's at mentally, man. The guy hasn't fought in a while. He's had to pull out of 2 fights after his first career loss. I feel like he looks like he aged like 10 years, like at the media interviews, man. The guy looked old as hell. I don't know what that was, but I just feel like Brady, he's an elite guy at one thing, but I don't think his wrestling is necessarily elite in the open mat. He doesn't have the striking style or kind of the chin and the ability to kind of dig in and back guys up to the fence to take him down. So he's been able to kind of have certain matchups that were good for him and take these guys down, beat them up on the ground, dominate them. And when Brady gets a hold of you, you've heard Paul Felder and these other guys say he's like the strongest person that they've ever grappled with, extremely heavy on top. So if he gets you up against the cage, his ability to take you down with his clinch takedowns, with his trips, is phenomenal. I mean, the guy has absolutely elite takedowns against the cage, and then his top control is really, really good. I don't necessarily think he has an elite level submission game, but he has a great squeeze. So if he can get into one of his positions, it's probably going to be the end of the fight for you. And in this fight, I think Sean Brady, just like I was talking about with Clay Guida, we've seen Kelvin Gastelum struggle a little bit with leg locks. So if Sean Brady has leg locks as part of his arsenal, I think this could be the fight that we could see Brady maybe pull those out here. But I think that if Kelvin Gastelum comes in shape, ready to go, he's controlling the center, being kind of slick, evasive with this forward pressure, southpaw stance, using his boxing combinations, I think it's going to be hard for Brady to back him up, and I think it's going to be hard for Brady to kind of get the respect he needs in the striking to get Kelvin Gastelum against the cage to take him down. And we've seen Kelvin Gastelum face elite level grapplers up a weight class like Jacare Souza, like Chris Weidman, Tim Kennedy. And even though he's kind of had a mixed bag where he's won some and lost some of those fights, when he gets taken out, his composure is elite. He has great ability to stand up to his feet. His takedown defense is high level. I feel like the guy is hard to deal with for grapplers. He also has really good offensive wrestling himself. I mean, we haven't really seen Brady get put on his back. Maybe Kelvin can do that. And I think that Kelvin is going to be a lot more welcoming seeing a guy that looks like his height, his weight in the cage, and not seeing a big old monster in front of him that's 25 pounds heavier than him. So this could be the start of something good for Kelvin. If he can go out there and, look like the old Kelvin at 170, I think he'll put a beat down on Sean Brady. I think he'll look good, and I think we'll either win via decision or late stoppage, because I feel like he's going to have the better cardio down the stretch. I do think Sean Brady could maybe win the first round with the control time, but I feel like after that it's going to be Kelvin's fight if Kelvin comes in with the right mentality and in the right shape. And I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum for now. But if he misses weight, I think Brady will win, because I don't know. At that point, I feel like Kelvin might not be physically ready or, equipped for 170 still. So, but I'm going to go with Kelvin for now. I feel like he is training with those guys, Henry Cejudo and them, and they're going to have his wrestling on point. They're going to have his cardio on point, and he should do well with this type of matchup. So give me Kelvin Gastelum to get the win. I think Brady, it's hard to be extremely confident in him coming off his first loss, the layoff. You don't necessarily know how he's going to react. So I'm going to go with Kelvin Gastelum with the veteran here. And moving on to the next fight on the card, Rob Font versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Very difficult fight to call, in my opinion. I mean, Deiveson moving up to 135 and definitely was kind of not a forced, but excuse me, but his body essentially forced him to move up to 135 because he didn't want to do it. I mean, even after the losses to Moreno, he was going to fight Manel Cape at 125s and wasn't medically cleared. And now he's finally making this move up to bantamweight, which he's been very kind of hesitant to do. And we'll see how he looks at this weight class. I mean, theoretically, I don't think he's going to be that small of a bantamweight, even though Rob Font is a huge guy for bantamweight. So it's going to be a lot bigger guy than he's used to facing, length-wise and weight-wise. And I think he's going to hit probably the hardest hitter that Figueiredo has ever fought in his career. But, Figueiredo should be a lot healthier, and I don't think he's going to be a small guy in terms of the whole bantamweight division. And if he has a little bit more juice left, he could go in there and make a little bit of run in this weight class. But Rob Font is not a guy that you want to overlook or disrespect or act like he has no chance in a fight, because he can go in there and spoil the party too, and he's actually the favorite in this fight. So people are thinking Rob Font is going to kind of end the career at the top level, in my opinion, of Deiveson Figueiredo here. So this would be a huge statement win for Rob Font. It would be another victory on his career, that moves him more towards that legendary status, where I feel like Rob Font, he has never gotten the title, never fought for the title, but he's kind of cementing his legacy as one of the better bantamweights the UFC has ever seen, and this would be another feather in his cap there. He is coming off that loss to Corey Sandhagen, where just got held down, really showed nothing in the whole fight, and took that fight on short notice. So I feel like you can't hold it too much against Rob Font, but really kind of got exposed a little bit in that fight where his get-ups weren't there, wrestling wasn't there, and I don't know if it was because of the short notice, not enough preparation, but definitely something you got to imagine Figueiredo and other opponents are going to try to do, which is try to take Rob Font down after seeing that fight. But we know how both these guys fight at this point. We see Rob Font, the guy has one of the best jabs in the UFC, and he sets everything up off the jab, the double jab. Great combination puncher. I mean, you'll go high, you'll go low. His boxing is some of the best boxing in the UFC, and just really, really high volume, high level guy. He has great recoverability. I mean, this is one of these guys where it's like he can get almost finished multiple times, but comes back like nothing happened at the start of the next round. But Rob Font, he does have a tendency to get cracked at the end of rounds, man. I mean, you've seen it time and time again where he's winning the round against Jose Aldo, against Chito Vera, even in other fights where looking good, then he just gets cracked, gets hurt, and drops the round due to that, or loses a close decision due to that. So that's been a recurring issue for Font, And another thing that Font struggles a little bit with is leg kicks, which I think Figueiredo could implement in this fight. So Rob Font, he has good wrestling as well. I feel like offensively he's shown it in other fights, and his grappling isn't that bad, but I feel like Rob Font is still kind of a more one-dimensional fighter. He does kick, but he's looking to box and really, really try to implement that jab to create his combinations and throw this high-volume boxing attack on the inside and really beat you up, slow you down, and end up finishing you late or just taking a decision victory. And Deiveson Figueiredo, he's a guy that I think is going to try to rely more on the fact that Rob Font getting cracked. He's going to try to catch him as he's coming in. He's going to try to use his leg kicks, try to demobilize Font a little bit, and then make it more of a dogfight where maybe he could touch Font's chin that way. And I think he could mix in some takedowns. And we don't know exactly how Figueiredo's power, how his gas tank is going to be different, and all these things at this weight class. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to see here. But Figueiredo, I feel like he has taken a lot of damage. Like his last fight with Moreno wasn't a good fight. He got stopped with the eye injury after kind of getting dominated for a large portion of the fight. So I kind of see this as a make or break fight for Figueiredo. And due to that, I'm going to give him one shot. I'm going to go with Figueiredo here at 135 to come up and beat Rob Font and I think it'll be a competitive fight like always, but I think Figueiredo maybe will hurt him a couple times, get a takedown, use those leg kicks, and squeak out a close one. But if Figueiredo loses this fight, it's going to be a tough one for him. I don't really know where he's going to go after that. So, big pivotal fight for both guys at bantamweight, but I'm going to go with Deiveson Figueiredo to squeak out a close fight there. And we got the co-main event. We got Bobby Green. He's taking on Jamey-Lyn Turner. And short notice fight once again. Jamey-Lyn Turner coming in relatively short notice, like 2 weeks notice. It was going to be Bobby Green. He was going to have a main event fight with Dan Hooker. And obviously that fell through when Hooker got injured. But obviously Jamey-Lyn Turner versus Bobby Green, that's not a fight you could really sneeze at. That's a hell of a fight too. And this is another fight where you're looking at the line. I don't really get the line. I don't get how Bobby Green is like plus 180. I think it should be closer to a pick'em. I mean, Jamey-Lyn Turner, he has 2 losses in a row. If you listen to his media day, he declined the 5-round fight with Bobby Green. He did not want to take that fight. They offered him another fight. I believe he declined it again. Then they called him a third time, and he said he felt pressured into taking this fight. So for me, I didn't like how he sounded at the media day. It seemed like he wasn't necessarily gung-ho to be in the cage. But, hopefully Turner is going to make weight and do good. That's another thing. I don't think this guy's going to make weight. I mean, we're going to see. But for him to make 155 on like 10 days notice, that's a tall task. And another thing is, it hasn't reared its head recently, but Turner has a lot of knockout losses, man. So, cutting all that weight, coming in, short notice, I think Bobby has a good chance to knock him out too. Especially if he makes the weight and he looks bad on the scales, or if he barely misses it, I think Bobby could even knock him out. I mean, we just saw Bobby get a quick knockout over Grant Dawson. He has the confidence right now. And Bobby always gets in these midweek antics. Like, I think he got into beef with Arman Tsarukyan and his team today. But none of that, to me, really ever affects Bobby Green. He always is going to fight the same way. And I feel like it's just a super close fight. You look at Jamey-Lyn Turner, the guy, extreme length. He comes forward, throws nice front kicks, straight punches. On the inside, he has nasty elbows and knees, and he can explode in and show elite speed, and his power is exceptional. So the guy early on is taking out a lot of people quickly. When fighters shoot in on him, he has great front chokes, and he can take you out with submissions as well. But he slows down. We saw that in the Dan Hooker fight. We've seen it in other fights. And Bobby Green's a guy that gets better as the fight goes on. Throws a lot of volume, great hand speed, great boxing, hands down style, very evasive. And he could also mix in the wrestling. I think that's something that people aren't really thinking about in this fight, but I think could happen, is I think Bobby Green could mix in a takedown or two in this one, take down Jamey-Lyn Turner, and, that be the differential in the fight. I mean, we did see Bobby Green just get ready to fight Grant Dawson, man. I mean, that guy is an elite level wrestler. He's a guy that was going to be looking to take Bobby Green down all fight. So Bobby Green wrestled a lot during that camp. And then to fight Dan Hooker, that's another guy that maybe Bobby Green was thinking, maybe I can mix in my wrestling on this guy. So maybe he was training more wrestling. And I think that could potentially be a part of this game plan. I mean, I know Jalen Turner stuffed all of Gamrot's takedowns, but Gamrot was no threat on the feet to Turner. He didn't really set the takedowns up in the same way that Bobby Green potentially could. And Turner knew exactly what Gamrot was going to do before the fight. He drilled it. He had a full camp. This fight, totally different scenario where I think he's probably going to anticipate a striking fight. And there's no way he could have been training his wrestling and drilling his wrestling hard enough to where it's going to be at the level it was for the Gamrot fight. So, personally, I feel like Bobby Green has more ways to win. I think he has the better cardio. I think he has the better circumstances coming into the fight. And, so I feel like Bobby Green is going to get this job done. I think he's going to win. And I'm going to say Bobby Green wins via knockout in the first or second round. I think he could win via decision too. But Bobby Green is going to be my prediction there. And finally, we got the main event. We got Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan. And these are two guys that I've predicted their fights pretty well, man. I mean, I've gotten Arman Tsarukyan. I think I predicted every single fight of his in the UFC correctly, his wins and his losses. And for Beneil Dariush, I was on a long winning streak with predicting Beneil Dariush fights, upsets, and I did pick Dariush versus Oliveira, but I do have a good track record with predicting Dariush fights as well. And this line is insane. I don't get this line either. I feel like this should be another pick-em type fight or even a slight edge to Dariush on the line, honestly. I mean, how can you have Tsarukyan at such a big favorite where Dariush is almost a plus 300 underdog? Like, could someone explain that to me? I don't get that whatsoever. I mean, I understand that Dariush got knocked out in his last fight, but Charles Oliveira, Arman is nothing like that, man. He's not going to come in and he's not going to be willing to get in the pocket with Dariush and use the hand. He's not going to time the head kick off the... I mean, he could maybe land a head kick, but it's just a totally different striking matchup. He's not going to be aggressive like that with the hands. He's not going to be pressuring Dariush, I don't think, like that. I think he's going to be on the outside using his kicks. And, I mean, style-wise, I feel like this is a very winnable fight for Beneil Dariush. I mean, you look at Arman Tsarukyan, he's a great kicker. I mean, the guy's southpaw. He could switch stance too. And both these guys like to throw kicks from southpaw, though, so I think it's going to open up a lot of openings for both guys. And with Tsarukyan, I think he's obviously the more snappy kicker, faster kicker. He throws spin kicks. He can throw kicks to all parts of the body, but Dariush's kicks are more impactful. I mean, the guy is disgusting left kicks to the body, extremely heavy. You'll throw head kicks. And you look at Tsarukyan, I feel like his hands aren't really there. The guy doesn't have great boxing. He has better hand speed than Dariush, but Dariush is much more comfortable in exchanges. He's willing to get in there and kind of muddy it up and get ugly. And Dariush is really good at kind of putting all his weight on his lead leg so he can lean forward, lean back, kind of pull counter. He could be ready to throw that hard body kick. And he also has elite level grappling. I mean, I don't see Arman Tsarukyan being able to take down and hold down Dariush. If he can, props to him. The guy will be, in my book, elevated to another level. But no one, in my opinion, in the UFC is going to go out there and hold Dariush on his back and out-wrestle him and out-grapple him and make him look like a chump on the ground. I mean, if that happens, man, I'll be extremely shocked because Dariush has some of the best grappling credentials in the UFC. He has elite-level ability off his back to, use those leg attacks, use his scrambling ability to get back up to his feet. His wrestling has gotten a lot better in recent years. I think he could take down Tsarukyan too, and I think they could, they're going to have a hell of a battle in terms of the grappling. And Tsarukyan, I mean, this is the thing with both guys. Who's going to have the better cardio down the stretch? Tsarukyan, you look at his fight with Gamrot, the reason why he lost that fight, arguably, is he got tired. I mean, the later rounds, Gamrot was able to take down Tsarukyan more, hold him down more, and he clearly won, kind of dominated the fifth round against Tsarukyan when Tsarukyan slowed down, and that was the round that won the fight for Gamrot. So is Dariush a guy that I don't think we've ever seen him in a 4th or 5th round? How is he going to look in those rounds? Is he going to have the same cardio? You look at his fight with Carlos Diego Ferreira, and the pace that he pushed in that fight was exceptional. He did not get tired whatsoever. So personally, I feel like Dariush is going to be ready to prove a point. He's a guy that has been overlooked time and time again. He just had his title run crushed by Charles Oliveira, who's one of the top 5 lightweights arguably in the history of MMA. And now everyone's trying to throw dirt on him and put him as a plus 300 underdog against Arman Tsarukyan, a guy that has never beaten a top 10 fighter in his career. Man, I mean, I think that's insane. Honestly, I feel like you got to give Dariush a lot more respect than that. I feel like on the feet he throws with more power. I think he's more comfortable on the feet. I feel like he has a lot more experience striking with higher level strikers, with different type of strikers than Tsarukyan. And Tsarukyan is not going to be able to out-grapple Dariush like he has these other guys. I just don't see that happening. It's not like Tsarukyan's a cardio machine, so I'm worried about, like, in the 4th and 5th rounds, you've never seen Benny there. I mean, maybe Tsarukyan will turn it up on him. I'm not too worried about that. So, personally, I think the Dariush is a good bet. I mean, the line's off, man. The line's way off. Makes no sense, in my opinion, whatsoever. So, give me Beneil Dariush, man. Give me Beneil Dariush to get this win via decision. I think he'll get a knockdown. I think he'll be able to compete and maybe control some grappling situations. I think he'll be able to kind of be the better striker. And I'm going to say he has a better cardio. That's to be determined, but I'm going to say he ends up having the better cardio down the stretch as well. So Dariush, for me, is going to be the prediction. And I think the line's a little bit insane. I don't get the line whatsoever. But there you have it, guys. That's my full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Austin. I think this is a great card. As far as my most confident pick and my parlay of the week goes, for the parlay of the week, I'm going to go with Melky Costa and Jamey-Lyn Horth. And for my most confident pick of the week, I'm going to go with Melky Costa. So thanks for watching, guys. Go to patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru right now. Sign up. Help me make some money for Christmas. Help you guys make some money. And let's, all cast together, create a bigger community, help keep this channel going. Really appreciate everyone that's already over there, and really hope some more people come and join because we are killing it right now. And I think this weekend is going to be a big weekend. So come over and sign up to patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru. Help make yourself some money. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you liked this video. And I'll be back soon talking about another fight card. Going to try to put out the UFC video a lot earlier next week. I'm also going to be doing a collab video with the other guru on, not MMA Guru, but Chronic Combat. So that's going to be really fun. So go check that out. And definitely next week I'll post more about it, but that's going to be a good time. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you guys later.